And he claims that Beau De Mayo would constantly send either nude or nearly nude pictures to his young male subordinates in heroic poses for quote-unquote inspiration for X-Men 97, and that he was asked to stop but did not, and that he also was accused of sexually groping one of the staffers and young assistants.
Accusing me of being too much of a fanboy. They openly resented me fighting for the fans, fighting for the comics. They accused me of playing karaoke with those comics.
Critics and fans alike praised X-Men 97, describing it as captivating, fast-paced, dramatic, and one of Marvel's best adaptations of their comic books. But behind the scenes, X-Men 97 was caught up in several salacious scandals. Just weeks before the release of the show, the showrunner Beau De Mayo was fired. According to some anonymous sources, Beau De Mayo was very difficult to work with, and was also sexually harassing many of the people on his production team. Beau De Mayo argues that these allegations are false, and that he was fired from X-Men 97 not because of any misdoing, but simply because he loved the characters and was trying to maintain the integrity established by people like Stan Lee or Chris Claremont. Today we're going to examine these allegations which were levied at Beau De Mayo. We will watch as Yellow Flash white knights for this gay and alleged predator Beau De Mayo, and as Jesterbell dismantles his disgusting defense. And after the release of the show, it is true that the anti-woke fandom was largely divided as to whether they would like it or dislike it. Before X-Men 97's release, the majority of them, including Yellow Flash, were actually very against the show. In fact, if you take a quick look at Yellow Flash's content, you'll see all of these videos that he ended up making arguing that the show is going to be woke and providing lots of negative coverage for X-Men 97. The revelation that Beau De Mayo was going to be fired just came a week or two before the release of X-Men 97, and this was Yellow Flash's reaction to the controversy.
Maybe they didn't supervise it. Kevin Feige sat down, finally watched that show, and was like, whoa, this is shit, and fired him for doing a garbage job. A lot of us have had the thought that this show is going to be shit, and that's a high possibility this could be a dog shit show. And maybe that's why he got fired. It's all speculation until somebody says something, and I would imagine within a week or two, somebody will leak why he was fired.
People were largely left uninformed about Beau De Mayo's departure. He finally decided to make this post. Here Beau De Mayo says, "Firstly, I'm grateful to have worked on X-Men 97, collaborating with some amazingly talented folks. Creating this revival was a dream come true, and the support fans have shown is so touching. However, I felt it pressing for me to speak up in the wake of leaving the show." Here Beau De Mayo has a caricature of himself dressed up in some sort of gay Cyclops cosplay, where he's wearing X-Men underwear and has a Cyclops visor. This was a post that Beau De Mayo had published on Instagram on June 4th. He goes on to explain that this was in celebration of gay pride, as Beau De Mayo is in fact a homosexual man. And on June 13th, Marvel sent Beau De Mayo a letter saying that he was not only fired from working on X-Men 97, but also from working on Blade, and that additionally his name would be stripped from the credits of both of these works. Reading Beau De Mayo's posts, the likely takeaway is that Disney ended up firing Beau De Mayo for being gay or open about it. Disney Marvel went on to clarify that Beau De Mayo was not fired for being an unabashed homosexual, but actually for egregious behavior. Several anonymous whistleblowers then went to Jeff Snyder, who has a blog called The Insnyder, and these whistleblowers gave the explosive allegations that Beau De Mayo was sexually assaulting and harassing several people who had worked on the show. Let's take a quick listen to Yellow Flash's reaction to these allegations levied against the alleged gay predator Beau De Mayo.
Groped an assistant multiple times, emotionally and physically abusive to other staffers. This one, even if that one's true, like, these are Hollywood people who are like soft. And the reason I think he probably was hard to work with, in quotes, because they said that about him at The Witcher, which is brought up here. And this is what made me really want to talk about this. De Mayo was asked to stop sending such photos, but persisted anyway. De Mayo was also reportedly let go from Netflix's The Witcher for similar behavior. Brad Winderbaum reportedly was the one who failed to look into details around his The Witcher departure. Now, they're trying to take pressure off of Kevin Feige, who they say wasn't that involved in this, but that's clearly not the case, because in an interview with Beau De Mayo, when all this first X-Men 97 stuff first kicked off for the press tour, like, he was talking about all of these interactions with Kevin Feige.
While talking about the alleged sexual assault, Yellow Flash said, "Even if it is true, you have to remember these are people in Hollywood and they are soft. I have no idea by any means how someone is soft for not being okay with another dude touching his parts." Yellow Flash is trying to make it sound like these people are snowflakes just because they don't want to get sexually assaulted. Here, Yellow Flash isn't even arguing that Beau De Mayo is innocent, but that his victims are being weak for not gladly taking his gay advances. Jesterbell goes on to explain why she believes that Beau De Mayo was guilty of sexual harassment and sexual assault.
From Jeff the Insider, who I have signed on what he claims he heard happen behind the scenes, and he claims that Beau De Mayo would constantly send either nude or nearly nude pictures to his young male subordinates in heroic poses for quote-unquote inspiration for X-Men 97, and that he was asked to stop but did not, and that he also was accused of sexually groping one of the staffers and young assistants. And I 100% believe these things to be true. Why? Because this is exactly how Beau De Mayo behaved on his social media. The reason why I stopped following him, even though I wanted to follow just to be up on the news of anything happening, is because Beau De Mayo would constantly post pictures of himself, self-sexualized pictures of himself on social media. Like, this is not just the photos that you would post about, look at me, I work out at the gym. No, this is very much sexualized, very much pushing yourself on other people. There is not any time that you could follow Beau De Mayo that he would not have his bare-chested pecs out right in front of your face as his social media profile, constantly posting these things on social media, and also posting himself in sexualized ways with the X-Men characters, like that time when he posted himself in nothing but a diaper and a Magneto helmet.
This is a defense that Beau De Mayo offers to people who point to his scandalous social media posts.
With me, it's look at his Instagram. Doesn't he look thirsty? Isn't he a narcissistic egomaniac? Isn't it too vulgar, too sexual? This isn't someone celebrating their hard work or their journey in overcoming years of internalized racism and homophobia to finally become comfortable in their own skin. No, this is something shameful. This is smoke for a larger fire of predatory behavior. Growing up gay and black in the South, I had to learn to accept that I am not everybody's cup of tea, and that I would, by virtue of just being me, rub some people the wrong way.
Beau De Mayo seems to imply that people who point to his social media posts are actually bigoted, or that people perhaps don't like him because he is gay. While I ended up watching Beau De Mayo's defense after he posted it on YouTube, it's important to note that he actually originally posted it on his OnlyFans. Now, immediately, a lot of people, when they hear the word OnlyFans, are going to think X-rated explicit content. But when you look at certain sources, like The Hollywood Reporter or even Jesterbell, they'll claim that Beau De Mayo's OnlyFans was actually not sexually explicit. I haven't visited Beau De Mayo's OnlyFans page, so I haven't seen it with my own eyes. However, with a bit of a deeper search, we can actually find that this isn't the case. I'll point to this article written on out.com in 2022, which was actually meant to boost Beau De Mayo and to promote him, not to cause him any negative harm, and it was also large before any of these scandals had publicly been discussed. Here on out, it actually explains that Beau De Mayo does have an OnlyFans and that it allows him to be a little more free in what he does and chooses to post, and while it isn't hardcore, it still is sexy. And that's where Beau De Mayo ended up making this post of himself, which has been censored. Had this photo not been censored, I would argue that this is still sexually explicit. While some may feel that X-Men 97 is a show created for an older audience, many are going to still view it as a kids show. And Disney also still has the image of a family-friendly company, and I'm sure that this is something that made some executives get a little nervous. If this is how in-your-face Beau De Mayo is with his sexuality, posting nude photos of himself on his OnlyFans, is it really out of the realm of possibility that he would be sending photos like this to his employees and teammates? One thing that Yellow Flash had previously mentioned is that X-Men 97 wasn't the first time that Beau De Mayo had found himself embroiled in controversy and had been fired from working on a show. Jesterbell will talk a little bit about the controversy which Beau De Mayo had found himself in before working on X-Men 97, back when he was working on The Witcher. She will discuss a controversial interview which Beau De Mayo had about The Witcher, and about the subsequent remarks of Matt D'Ambrosio, who is the script coordinator with The Witcher, and who had made some very damning posts with regards to Beau De Mayo.
reports, but in 2022, he did an interview where he talked about the importance of being a fan of the show you're working on and how he's worked on shows alluding to The Witcher, where people actively hated the source material and that he did not want that to happen to X-Men 97. And I think that he got a lot of rallying behind him then, because a lot of people who were unhappy with The Witcher wanted to rally behind someone, I think, who sounded like he was on the side of the source material. But later, after that interview came out, there was a tweet that went out from somebody who worked on The Witcher show as well, and it seemed kind of obvious who he was alluding to in his tweet, while he wasn't explicit about it. But the tweet was from Matt D'Ambrosio. If I were unceremoniously fired from a job for being both emotionally and physically abusive, I'd probably focus on getting help instead of constantly bring up my involvement with said job. So this tweet came out shortly after that interview with Beau De Mayo, and so it was clear to a lot of people who he was alluding towards there. And so all the way back in 2022, that was like the first rumor that Beau De Mayo was not good to work with behind the scenes. But once again, it was just he said, she said. There was no proof of anything. But that same user also tweeted some other things alluding to this person he was talking about that were very disparaging. That apparently this person he was talking about, which everyone assumed had to be Beau De Mayo because of that interview that he was alluding to, I'll say he said some allegedly very, very disparaging comments about gay people. Beau De Mayo is gay himself. We'll talk about that in a second. Got to talk about in a second. But he said some very disparaging remarks about fellow gay men and about gay characters. And the comment that he allegedly made about other gay men is so bad that I don't feel comfortable repeating it on this channel.
But since I have no chill, this is something that we will most definitely discuss on my channel. Now, before we get to this other tweet where Matt D'Ambrosio talks about what Beau De Mayo is saying with regards to other gay men, we first need to talk about the importance of this evidence which Jesterbell has brought to the table. This isn't just some anonymous troll on Twitter, but this is someone who actually has a career and who is risking their reputation by making these very clear allegations against Beau De Mayo. So the other post which Matt D'Ambrosio made about Beau De Mayo was, "For no reason at all, I am thinking of a time a gay writer once told me that bisexuality is a trope, and also another time he said it was that bottoms are disease receptacles. He attends a lot of circuit parties apparently, and he'd also go out of his way to kill queer characters." So with regards to bottoms being disease receptacles, I'm not really sure why anyone would try and argue with that. I mean, if you allow other men to inject their man juice into you, it's going to likely lead to STDs. And with regards to bisexuality being a trope, I'm someone who actually grew up Amish, for those of you who don't know, and I have never once met a gay animal. Though I have met plenty of animals, in fact all animals, will try to find sexual gratification through any means possible while they are going through heat. So I guess this tweet was supposed to all make us hate Beau De Mayo. So let me angrily shake my wrist at him in scorn.
How dare you!
Beau De Mayo argues, though, that in actuality he was someone who had called out sexual abuse.
I think the simplest way to put it is that the things I witnessed while working at Marvel were beyond wrong and unethical. It is wrong for a crew producer who repeatedly white-splains to his boss to respond to his boss's concerns on January 9th of this year with, "This has jack shit to do with me being white." It is wrong for that same producer to repeatedly joke to the crew about how he showed my thirst traps on Instagram to his underage son, and his kid is wondering, do they need to buy me shirts for Christmas? It is wrong for this same producer when I notify them that one of our leads is having a potentially exploitative sexual relationship with a PA, for this producer to bury my report and actually go to the individual in question and let them know that I had ratted on them so that they can then work together to discredit me. It is wrong for Marvel execs to roll their eyes when I raise concerns about being bullied and targeted on account of my identity, and to tell me to deal with it because these individuals are amazingly talented. It is wrong for an artist on the show to repeatedly denounce all men as jerks and to accuse me of failing the cause because I'm keeping a jerk like Cyclops as leader of the team. It is wrong to question my intelligence because my muscles don't make me look like a writer.
Beau De Mayo feels that these claims that he was sexually harassing or assaulting some of his employees were actually levied at him because it was a form of deflection, as he was trying to expose actual abuse. He also goes on to explain why the executives really hated working with him.
They openly resented me fighting for the fans, fighting for the comics. They accused me of playing karaoke with those comics. And repeatedly, I was told by these individuals that we should be doing our own version of X-Men, writing news stories, and not adapting those written by old white men, by which I could only assume they were referencing individuals like Stan Lee and Chris Claremont. Now, my response to this was to try to calmly outline that fans didn't want to see our version of the X-Men. They, like me, want to see the characters that they have loved for decades faithfully adapted on screen. Now, in return, these individuals would then attempt to sabotage me on my job, painting me as abusive when I declined to make wholesale changes to characters, when I declined to have Jubilee fire plasmoids for her mouth, or make gang signs, or paint the sky with plasmoids in the shape of middle fingers. What was worse, and what really just hurt, is as I fought for when I felt that fans and audiences want, I was then being painted as being uncollaborative, too difficult, too much of a fanboy, and one executive's favorite phrase to fire at me: Beau, you need to learn to turn your comic book collector brain off. They chose to treat me as a child that needed to be scolded, even as I was drawing upon 40 plus years of dealing with ignorance just like theirs, having survived traumas that they cannot even begin to imagine, never mind understand or appreciate. Maybe, and yes, needless to say, look around me, I take X-Men very seriously. Specifically, I take this specific show's legacy very seriously. It saved my life as a kid, and I know it did others. So when individuals refer to it as just a cartoon, that bumped me.
Some may have remained unconvinced by Beau De Mayo's story, but others, like Yellow Flash, had been swayed. Yellow Flash went on to say on Twitter, "I was wrong about Beau De Mayo. X-Men 97 is a masterpiece outside of the animation. Hire him back, like you did with James Gunn, at Marvel Studios." One of the funniest parts about this tweet is how Yellow Flash always has to find something to nitpick and hate. He can't ever be happy with something. That's why he had to say, "It's a masterpiece, outside of the animation." Also, I find it really ironic that Yellow Flash was trashing Beau De Mayo in X-Men 97 for months on end, and now that he actually liked it, he didn't really want to talk about it. It just goes to show you the type of content that Flash always has to post. He isn't allowed to like things, he always has to hate things. It also demonstrates Flash's lack of loyalty. I mean, think about how much more views he would have gotten if he would have posted this on YouTube. Yellow Flash is a YouTuber, so why didn't he make a video about this if this is how he actually feels? Especially considering he made so many videos about Beau De Mayo and X-Men 97. Perhaps if Yellow Flash had made this video on YouTube, Flash would have been able to rally his viewers together. It's just so funny to me, he was amping his audience up for several months trying to get them very angry and upset, and then once he realized he actually liked X-Men 97, he didn't know how to talk about something that he actually enjoyed. This just perfectly demonstrates that Yellow Flash is nothing more than an outrage merchant, trying to perpetually brew conflict, but he never actually wants things to change in a positive way. I also find it funny too that Yellow Flash wasn't even saying that Beau De Mayo was innocent per se, but just that these people that Beau De Mayo were assaulting should have actually just taken the gay sexual advances like men. Let's take a quick listen to hear what Jesterbell has to say about people who are rushing to White Knight for Beau De Mayo.
I want to stop people, though, from rallying to defend this guy just yet. And this is coming from a person where there was a little moment there where I myself was rallying behind him, assuming that he must have been done dirty by Disney or something. And the only reason why anybody thinks that this guy is some sort of white knight defending the source material is that that's what he claims about himself. That's what he tried to claim about The Witcher. And he had his coworkers come out then and talk bad about him. And none of the people who have worked with him in terms of working with him day to day has said anything good about him. We've only gotten leaks of them saying bad stuff about him. And after reading the writer's Bible for the X-Men and the other stuff he said behind the scenes, I was like, I'm right now convinced that the only reason anything good came out of X-Men 97 is because of the other people that worked on it, because this guy is a straight up creep and it does not seem like he gets the characters at all.
Here Jesterbell reveals several other people who worked with Beau De Mayo who seemed to be very happy that he was gone, offering a support to these allegations which had been levied against him.
The assumption then was that Disney must have fired this guy because they didn't like it that he was too close to the source material, and that is why he lost his job, and that he should of course get it back. And I just want to say, wait a minute, like, that is actually a completely unfounded guess. I mean, they accepted his pitch, and he said that himself in all of these tweets that he's been putting out, that he pitched the show based on episode 5, and he was putting a lot of his experiences as a black gay man into it, which is what Kevin Feige wanted. So, I mean, they accepted this guy's pitch. Everything that I would say would seem to add up with that they were on the same page here. So there's no real evidence that Disney would have fired him over being too close to the source material, especially because Beau De Mayo, as a fan of these comics, was already working on Disney Plus shows. He had formerly worked on Moon Knight. He had written 2 episodes of that. So there doesn't seem to be any evidence that it was because he was too close to the source material. And in fact, that is a complete assumption on anyone from the outside looking in, just because they're remembering those reports from Marvel wanting to move away from the source material and being frustrated with that. But that is a complete projection of a situation where there's so much more to it that we don't know.
Still, this doesn't really offer a rebuttal to Beau De Mayo's claim that he was trying to stick to the source material, that Marvel was hating him for being too much of a fanboy. But Jesterbell offers a very logical response to Beau De Mayo's claims. So if Marvel was wanting to fire Beau De Mayo for being too close to the source material, why had they hired him to work on other Marvel projects like Moon Knight? Also, why did they accept his pitch in the first place if that was the case? In my opinion, the math just isn't mathing up. Beau De Mayo wasn't just fired from X-Men 97, but also from The Witcher. The crux of the argument behind the people who believe these allegations levied against Beau De Mayo doesn't just center around anonymous whistleblowers, but also around coworkers as well. Additionally, Beau De Mayo has uploaded naked pictures of himself on the internet, so I don't really think it's out of the realm of possibility that he was sending these to underlings and employees as well. Some may feel that these allegations are false, or some, like Yellow Flash, may think that maybe these are true, but that these men should have just taken these gay advances like a man. What do you think about this whole situation? With regards to Beau De Mayo, do you side more with Jesterbell or with Yellow Flash? Let me know what you think in the comments section below, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, or...
You are a hoe ass